Hey everyone, it's Jessica Michaels here with another layout for Creative Scrapbooker magazine featuring Therm O Web supplies. So I've got some new products here today that I'm going to be using to create a travel notebook spread. So I am just cutting down a sheet of pattern paper from the Into the Wild collection by Echo Park, and I'm cutting this down to fit on one side of my layout here. And I have a travel notebook that is kind of like a binder style, and it's from Citrus Twist Kits. And it's called the Life Crafted album. They have two different sizes. I like the smaller size for my travel notebooks, which I am featuring all of my camping adventures in. So I've cut this down. I'm going to use this nice orange background for this side, which I have done some machine stitching on my sewing machine. I just have a Brother sewing machine, nothing super fancy, but I've done some machine stitching in a wavy design in two different shades of blues. And then I've got two photos here that I'm using along with some Ellie's Studio stamps called jumbo number stamps, and I'm just going to use the outline stamp set and the solids. So I'm going to create some large numbers for kind of like a 1, 2, 3 step type of layout on this side. And I'm pulling in my brand new Fuse foiling gel by Gina K Designs for some really fun foiling on this layout. I'm going to just create some little foiled fish on here. This is one of my favorite things to do on my fishing layouts, is to create these really pretty foiled fish, because fish to me have those really pretty scales that are kind of like a rainbow effect when you kind of tilt them. They've got that iridescent look. So foiling on fish when I do fishing layouts is just something that makes sense to me. So I've got this Echo Park little fish stencil that I'm using today, and I'm just taking my palette knife and just spreading on sporadically on these little fish and just skipping over a few here and there just to create a nice random pattern around where my photos and my numbers are going to go. So while that's drying, it does take about an hour to dry depending on your climate and the humidity. I'm going to go ahead and prep my large numbers here. You can see I've already stamped my 3, working on my number 1 and 2 here. I'm just stamping with some poolside ink by the Stamp Market, and then my outline is going to be in Intense Black by Honeybee Stamps. And then I will use the coordinating die set that goes with this and my manual die cutting machine here. I'm just going to run these through real quick and cut my numbers out. I did mess up my number 1. It shifted a little bit. This is why it's a good idea to use some pixie tape or washi tape to hold down your dies on your little numbers here when you run them through, so that they don't shift in the process. But I do use a magnetic mat, but it doesn't work super well with the magic mat that I have. So really I should be using that washi tape or some pixie tape, but I sometimes get lazy with it and just kind of run it through and take my chances. So I ended up having to do the one twice, but they're all good to go now at this point. I'm going to go ahead and pull out my Fuse laminating system. I came back actually the next day because I had to get my kids in bed, and I am working on this. So I know it's good and dry at this point, but it would have been dry about an hour in. And it will dry clear too. I should mention that. Once it's completely dry, it'll be clear. So I have 2 shades of foils here. I'm just going to sandwich this in between a crafting carrier sheet, also by Therm O Web. And I've got Emerald Coast is the greenish one, and then the bluish one is called Blue Sky. Now these are from Gina K's newest release, and they are the fancy foils by also by Gina K. So I've got these little strips here. I just pulled out a couple scraps that I had left over from a previous project, and I've just cut these down into little pieces. I like to layer up these fish to create a nice random effect and just make some of them blue and some of them green, and then I'm just running this through. Number 3 setting on your Fuse laminating system is perfect for this. So once this comes out, you want to let it cool just slightly and then go ahead and peel off your foils. When you place them down, obviously you want that pretty side facing up towards you and the shiny kind of silverish side down on your project. So there you can see that foiled goodness. I absolutely love how these fish turned out. They're little puffy foiled fish, and I just love them so much. I think it's going to really make this side of this layout pop and create some really fun embellishing. I've got my photos here that I'm using. My first one here on the number 1 was my son actually digging in the dirt, and I'm going to say that he was digging for worms, but this was actually after we went fishing. The second photo over there by the number 2 was actually before this, but I kind of switched them around to make a funny effect on this layout and kind of tell a funny story that he was digging up worms in order to go fishing. But really, in reality, his attention span at this age was so short that we went fishing and it lasted about, I don't know, 3 minutes before he decided to just dig in the dirt with his little toys. So that's what he ended up doing while we were fishing. But all in all, he had fun and so did we. So it's all good. But I thought it would just be funny to do a little spin on this layout and use some of these pretty little studio small alphabet letters that I have. And I'm just going to write on here that he's digging for worms, and then number 2 is going to be go fish, and then number 3 is going to be camp out, because this is part of one of our camping trips. So all we had to do to go fishing was actually just walk through the campground, and the creek is right there. So it works out really well for us. My title piece here down at the bottom for my number 3 is actually an acrylic piece by Color Cast Designs, and I'm using this mixed media adhesive to adhere this down to my layout. That mixed media adhesive is a liquid adhesive, but it dries clear, so you don't have to worry about making a mess with it, and it works really, really well for bonding things like acrylic to paper. So I've got that title piece down. I'm just going to use the sticker sheet from this collection by Echo Park to finish embellishing. I really wanted to use this sign, but it ended up being too big for my layout here, so I just put it back on my sticker sheet. And I'm going to embellish the left side as well. I've got some 2x2-inch photos on the left page that I am embellishing here, just using that sticker sheet and a couple random bits from my stash. You can see the finished results there. And the only thing I have to do now is place this in my book, and then I'm going to add my date stamp to the top, just again with my black ink by Honeybee Stamps and just a random Pink Fresh Studio embellishment here. So here's what the finished result looks like. I hope that I've inspired you guys to create something today and try out some foiling techniques, because foil to your layouts or your cards is just something that's super, super fun. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I thank you for being here. Bye-bye.